Hello and welcome. My name is Kate. I'm also known as the Daily Tarot Girl, and welcome to my 2025 tarot forecast reading. So I am so excited to sit down with you, shuffle my cards, and peer into the future and see what 2025 has in store for us. So the deck that I'm going to be using for this reading is the Cosmic Wisdom Tarot. This is a tarot deck by Ethony, and the art is by James Fenner. And the spread that I'm going to be using is a spread that I created. It's my New Year's 2025 tarot spread. And if you want to grab your own copy of that spread, I'll put the link below this video if you want to do that. Okay, so I'm just going to shuffle my cards here. So I'm using this 9-card spread, and I will explain kind of what each position means as I move through the reading. But really, I'm doing this reading for the collective, so this is very much a general reading. So there may be parts of it that you can relate to, and maybe parts that you don't. What was I going to say? I've lost my train of thought already. We've only just begun. And it's not so much a predictive reading about what's going to happen in 2025. It's more kind of looking to see okay, what strengths can you tap into this year? What things should you be prioritizing? What should you focus on? What's going to help you stay energized this year? I have a feeling that 2025 is going to be a really wild year. I just kind of have that feeling. We'll see. We'll see how the reading goes. But I'm interested to see what kinds of guidance and ideas the cards are going to have for us. Okay, so I'm just laying my cards out here. Now, some of these are reversed. I don't usually read with reversals, but I felt guided to for this reading. So I have reversed, I think 15 cards, so not a lot. So it'll be interesting to see if any of them show up for us. Now, before we dive into the reading, I want to point out one thing. So this year, 2025, if you add up the numbers in the year, 2 plus 2 plus 5, you get number 9, which corresponds to the Hermit. So this year, 2025, is a Hermit year. It's Year of the Hermit. Now, I didn't pull out that card. I shuffled it into my deck because I wanted to see if it would show up for us in our reading. But the Hermit is a very introverted card. It's all about going inward and really nurturing the relationship that you have with yourself, contemplating things, spirituality, all of that stuff. And so what that tells me about 2025 is that this is a year to really prioritize the relationship you have with yourself and prioritizing alone time and giving yourself that time in your space, that time and space to kind of contemplate things. Okay, so let's dive in. Okay, so I'm going to turn over the first card. Now, this first card is how to approach 2025. So as we step into this new year, how should we be approaching things? And the first card that I have is the Moon. So I'm going to put the card up on my screen so you can get a better look of it. So the Moon is the first card. Now, this is really interesting. The Moon is a very mysterious card, and it tells us that the best way to approach things in 2025 is to accept the mystery, accept that things may not be crystal clear as we move through 2025. Things may be very confusing, very murky. Think about when you are moving through a dark room where all the lights are out, but there's a little bit of moonlight coming through the window. So some things are illuminated so you can kind of make your way through the room, but you can't see details. There's just kind of shadows. Things are kind of shadowy and you're kind of fumbling around. It may feel, especially in the beginning of 2025, or maybe even in the first half, it may feel like we're kind of doing that. We're sort of fumbling in the dark a little bit, trying to make out the shapes. And just accepting, kind of embracing the mystery, embracing that we may not have all the answers this year, that things that we really want to be crystal clear may not come into focus for us this year, and that's okay. It will eventually. It's really about kind of being patient and learning to kind of love sort of fumbling in the dark, as weird as that sounds. The other thing I get with the moon is all about our subconscious, the subconscious side of us, like our subconscious or unconscious, like our collective unconscious, like the things that are beneath the surface. And what I see in the moon is that 2025 may be a year where a lot of that collective unconscious energy gets kind of stirred up in a almost in a group way. Like we'll all be kind of, everyone's going through their own individual thing, but I see a lot of like collective energies really getting stirred up this year. Yes, okay. And I feel like there's also, like I'm also really focusing on the symbol of the moon. I feel like for many of us, working with lunar energy is going to be really helpful this year. So working with the cycles of the moon, paying attention to what phases the moon is in. So when it's a dark moon, sometimes that's a good time to kind of move inward, be more inward focused. When it's a full moon, that might be a good time to manifest things and to be more active and to be busier, things like that. So that might be really helpful for you this year. I also am really struck by the wolf howling at the moon. There is this like, it's almost like a collective howl. It's like finding your voice, but also tapping into your wild side. So the moon and all that stuff I said about like the collective unconscious and all of that, there's also a connection to sort of the animal self, kind of the wild side, the instinctual self. And so I think that connecting with this part of you as you enter into 2025 and sort of touching base with this part of yourself, acknowledging that you know, we have this animal self, this kind of wild, instinctual, you know, wild side. Everyone does. And I think sort of acknowledging that throughout this year in some way is going to be helpful to us. I'm not sure why, and I'm not sure how, but I'm struck by this wolf howling at the moon and kind of finding your voice and being able to vocalize something. Yeah, we'll see what some of the other cards are, but so far that's what the main thing that I get though this year is that this might be a frustrating year for those of us who want clarity and want things to be revealed. This may be a year where you might feel frustrated by a lack of clarity. So just embracing the mystery. You may not have all your questions answered this year, and entering into 2025 just kind of knowing that certain things will be clear, but I don't think we'll feel like we have the full picture yet. Okay, so this next card I'm going to turn over, I just have to look at my spread. I can't remember what this position is. Okay, so this next card I'm going to turn over is going to tell us what we are seeking. So what you're really seeking this year, what you're really seeking and wanting. And the card I have here is Five of Cups. Okay, so interesting. This is an interesting card. And what I'm noticing two things on this card. I'm noticing the spilled cups and I'm noticing the bridge. And what I get from this is that you're seeking, the thing that you're sort of yearning for and seeking is to be able to acknowledge and sit with the things that have your disappointments and the things that have let you down, whether that's like pain or just a feeling of disappointment, to be able to really look at that and acknowledge it instead of brushing it under the rug, instead of just focusing on the positive things, but to be able to really look at that and allow yourself the time to grieve or to feel that feeling of disappointment. It's almost like that is something that we're all kind of yearning for in some way. And we may not totally realize it yet, but this is an important thing. We're seeking, it's almost like we're seeking a certain level of authenticity this year to be able to look at the things that aren't working and be like, oh, this just really sucks. Like this just really isn't working. And just be able to sit with that and acknowledge that. And then the second thing I noticed was the bridge in the background. And I feel like in order to cross that bridge, in order to get to the other side, we first need to acknowledge what's causing us pain, what's making us hurt, what are we upset about, what are we angry about, what are we disappointed, what's making us feel let down. We kind of have to look at that and really grieve it and acknowledge it before crossing that bridge. Okay, so that's ultimately what we're seeking. We're seeking a way to acknowledge our inner pain before moving forward, because we know that ultimately we can't really move forward and focus on the positive if we haven't really looked at the negative or what's not working. And then moving on to the third card, this is the card of New Horizons. So I always like to kind of peer into the year ahead, peering into 2025 and like, what's on the horizon for us? What new horizons will we be, or will you be exploring this year? And the card I got here is Four of Swords, but reversed. So remember I said I put some reverse cards in the deck. I wasn't sure which ones were gonna show up reversed here, but we have the Four of Swords. So this is the card of New Horizons, Four of Swords reversed. I have this feeling 2025 is going to be like such a bizarre year. And this card kind of confirms it a little bit. So what I'm getting here is you're going to want to explore things like meditation, being able to quiet your mind, different ways of creating like an inner peacefulness, but the usual kind of conventional methods of doing this might not work for you. So if in the past, doing a particular breathing technique or meditation technique was really helpful for you, you might actually find that in 2025, that stuff doesn't really work anymore. You kind of have to discover new ways of clearing your head, new ways of creating a sense of inner peace, new ways of meditating and being in the moment. I also feel like exploring new horizons this year may be actually like spurred on by a sense of discomfort and a sense of inner turmoil. So typically like the Four of Swords upright is about clearing your head, emptying out your thoughts, kind of meditation, having an empty or a clear mind. And reversed, I feel, shows a little bit of difficulty in doing this. So that's why I said, your usual tricks for calming your mind and being present may not work this year. You might actually have to discover new things. And the fact that the usual things aren't going to work will actually propel you to explore new horizons. So it's kind of the silver lining. It's like feeling stressed out and feeling like your mind is full and not being able to rely on the tried and true practices or techniques that have worked for you in the past actually kind of forces you to kind of move forward into uncharted territory and try new things and explore kind of new parts of yourself. Okay, let's have a look at card number 4. So card number 4 is the release and let go card. This is what you need to release as you step into 2025. This might be stuff from last year that you need to kind of release and let go of before moving forward. And the card we got here is Three of Pentacles. Okay. So Three of Pentacles is actually quite a positive card. This is about collaboration, working with others, doing things in a group, really finding your calling in life as it relates to like your work in the world, kind of doing meaningful work. But this is in the let go position, which is interesting. And this kind of goes with the whole idea of the Hermit being the card of the year for 2025. So the Hermit is a card of independence and kind of doing things on your own, spending time by yourself, solitude, kind of moving away from the crowd. And Three of Pentacles is the opposite. This is about collaboration and doing things as like part of a team. So what you might find is if you have certain hopes and dreams about feeling like you belong somewhere, being part of a team, working with others, you may need to just kind of put that to the side just for this year. You may need to let that go a little bit and rely more on your independence, rely more on kind of working on your own, getting more comfortable being independent, being more comfortable being on your own, figuring things out, being more comfortable with solitude as opposed to being in a group. Yeah, it might, you know what I'm getting? It's like teamwork and collaboration this year may be difficult. It might be trickier than other years. And so kind of letting go of this a little bit and getting comfortable with solitude, getting comfortable with being independent might work in your favor this year. I honestly am a little bit confused about this card. I feel like maybe there's something else I'm not seeing here, but we might come back to it. Okay, let's move on to card number 5. So card number 5 is what will help you stay motivated and energized in 2025. And the card we have here is the Hierophant. All right. So this is interesting. And I want to just go back to what I said earlier about how I kind of have this feeling that 2025 is going to be a very wild, kind of unpredictable, maybe even like a kind of chaotic kind of year. And it makes sense that the Hierophant is the thing that will help us stay energized. So the Hierophant is all about order and structure. I think when I look at the Hierophant, I think of like rules, like following a particular formula or a system, having a plan, having a map. Like it's like when people kind of belong to a religion and that religion has all these rules and guidelines about how to live their life. It's like very structured. And what I get with the Hierophant is that I think because this year is going to be very chaotic and there'll be a lot of like moving parts, a lot of kind of unpredictable things happening, I think that it will be really helpful for you to have some sort of structure in place, some sort of system that you can rely on. So this might just be having like a really great morning routine. You know, the Hierophant, it often gets like associated with like organized religion or education or something like that, like some sort of institution. But I really see the Hierophant it's really just about kind of structure and rules. And you can create that for yourself. Like, you know, having a good morning routine or a good bedtime routine, maybe setting goals at the beginning of the week, having some sort of structure in your day or your week. That is what's actually going to keep you energized. So when things are kind of chaotic and unexpected, unplanned things are happening, if you have certain like routines and plans in place, sometimes that can kind of offset that feeling of like, whoa, I don't know what's happening. It can kind of bring you that sense of stability. And that is actually what's going to energize you throughout the year. The other thing I get with the Hierophant is almost like a sense of community. Like think about how like organized religions, even cults or clubs or groups, you know, there is this kind of like sense of community. And what's interesting is with the Three of Pentacles, I said, you know, maybe let go of that, like collaborating with others might not be easy to do this year. So I'm kind of contradicting myself a little bit, but also, you know, having some sort of a community that you're a part of might really help to energize you. Even if you find it difficult to get along with others or see eye to eye or collaborate with others, still being part of a community can go a long way in giving you a lot of energy this year and helping you stay motivated and energized. Okay, let's look at card number 6. This is the card of goals and actions. So this card is going to give us some insight into what kinds of goals to set, what kinds of actions to take throughout 2025, or even if that's appropriate this year. Okay, Queen of Wands, and she's reversed. So is this our second? Yeah, this is our second reverse card so far. Okay, so I feel like I just have to read this card upright first. So Queen of Wands upright, what I would say is, like, she's a real go-getter, and she's very much goal-oriented, action-oriented. She loves taking action and doing things. She does so from a place of like passion and meaning, and she does things outside the box. She does things in a conventional manner. However, she's reversed. What this tells me actually is that we might have trouble this year when it comes to setting goals and taking action. So some of us might really struggle to take action on the things that are important, or to even set goals. And this kind of goes back to the moon, and that was like how to kind of approach this year. And I was saying, you know, the moon is showing that things may be a little bit murky and muddy this year, and it might not be super clear. And so when it comes to setting goals and taking action, we might struggle with that from time to time throughout this year. So the advice that I'm getting from this card is, if you're struggling to set goals, or if you've set goals but you're just struggling to take action on them, make sure that those goals and actions are in alignment with what you're passionate about and what is truly important to you, what your true heartfelt desires and values are. The other thing I'm noticing with the Queen of Wands is there's pyramids in the background on this card. And when I see the pyramids, I think of like a pyramid scheme. I think of like that top-down kind of mentality, that pyramid. But the Queen of Wands is reversed. So those pyramids are kind of being flipped upside down. And so to me, it feels like it feels like the normal order of doing things is kind of getting flipped around this year. And I'm not sure how to put that into words, but it feels like, again, I'm kind of saying the same thing I said when I was talking about the Four of Swords reversed. It's like the usual things that might have worked for you in the past when it comes to making things happen, setting goals, taking action, those things may not work for you this year. You might have to take a totally different approach to things this year. Okay, just seeing if there's anything else I want to say. Nope, let's move on. This is definitely gonna be a weird year. I can tell already with the reversals and everything. Okay, so let's look at card number 7. Card number 7 is the card of healing. So this card is going to tell us, it might tell us what needs healing this year, or how to heal the things we need to heal as we move through 2025. So the card we have here is the High Priestess. Nice. All right, so I'm happy to see this card here. So when it comes to healing, the High Priestess is telling us that we need to heal our relationship to our spiritual side. So we all have this mystical spiritual side. You could think of it as a soul, you could think of it as energy, your ability to be intuitive, to have psychic abilities, to connect with loved ones that have passed, to connect with your higher self or your spirit guides. We all have these abilities. Some of us are super interested in this, some of us are not. But the High Priestess is saying that this relationship with that part of yourself needs a little TLC. So what this might look like is maybe in the past you haven't really trusted your intuition, or you haven't taken the time each day or each week to do certain activities that really honor your spiritual side, whether that's doing rituals or journaling or meditating or whatever, or getting out in nature. The High Priestess is saying that that is really important to kind of repair that relationship with your higher self, with your deeper self, with your soul. That actually goes really nicely with this year being a hermit year. I feel like the hermit and the High Priestess are very similar in a lot of ways. The other thing I get with the High Priestess is that when it comes to healing in general, whether you're healing something that's physical or emotional or whatever, mental, there has to be some sort of spiritual component to that healing. That's really going to like speed things up and make things a lot easier. So having some sort of spiritual practice that supports you in whatever you're trying to heal. And it doesn't mean like only using, spiritual or energetic or woo-woo stuff when it comes to healing, but just incorporating some of that into whatever it is that you're working on healing this year. It could be something minor like an ache or pain, or it could be like a big emotional heartbreak that you're working on healing. But if there is a kind of a mystical sort of woo-woo spiritual aspect to it, it's going to just really amplify and enhance your healing journey. Okay, let's look at card number 8. So this is the Strength card. This is going to tell you what your strengths are this year and how you can really tap into those strengths as you move through 2025. All right. Page of Swords reversed. So it's weird to me that there's 3 reversed cards because I only reversed like 10 to 15 cards in the deck. I think it was 15. So I thought, I might get 1 reversal. We'll see. And we have 3. That is odd. The fact that there's 3 reversed cards kind of show that this year is going to be a little bit chaotic, a little bit haywire. I'll talk more about that in a sec. Let's focus on this card. Okay, so Page of Swords reversed. So Page of Swords upright is already what I would call kind of an unstable card. I think of the Page of Swords as really being kind of the most unstable character in the tarot. And then reversed, it's even more unstable. So this is really weird that this is the Strength. This might be a year where some of the things that usually have been a problem for you might actually turn out to be a strength this year. I'm not sure how, and I'm not sure why, but that's one possible interpretation. So the Page of Swords, the big struggle with the Page of Swords is that they are trying to make sense of things and kind of figure things out and get some stable footing on a ground that keeps shifting and changing. And because this card is reversed, to me that signifies, and this sounds a little bit kind of dark, but like it signifies kind of giving up on trying to make things make sense. And almost like, giving up on trying to make sense of things. And again, kind of embracing the mystery, embracing the confusion and the chaos, sort of coming back to the very first card that we pulled, which was the Moon. I feel like these 2 cards go together really well. With the Moon, I said kind of embracing the mystery, embracing this sense of confusion and murkiness that might be a theme of 2025. And Page of Swords is really kind of confirming that. So I think the more you try to make sense of things, the more you try to get a sense of stability and groundedness, the more frustrated you might become. And so it comes to a point where if you say, you know what, I give up. Up is down and down is up and black is white and white is black and, just kind of embracing the craziness and the chaos and the confusion, that actually might be a strength, being able to do that, being like, you know what, it's okay. It's okay if things are kind of weird right now. Okay, let's move on to the last card. So this last card is the final message, the closing message of the reading. So I like to think of this card as being kind of like a message from spirit, a message from your higher self, what you need to know as we start to wrap this reading up. And the card we got here is Six of Swords. Okay. I like the Six of Swords. The Six of Swords is about moving forward, it's about moving on, and it's about being helped and guided. Even though you may not realize you're being helped or guided. Like if you look at this card, the guy in the boat has his back to the, I was going to say the pilot, the driver, the guy steering the boat. I forget what he's called. The captain, I don't know. He has his back to him. So he may not even be totally aware of him. He's just kind of looking forward. But he's being helped, he's being steered. And what I get with the Six of Swords is that 2025, for so many of us, is going to be more of a transitory year. It's like a year of transition where there's going to be a little bit of upheaval, maybe a lot of upheaval for some of us. There's a little upheaval, there's a little bit of chaos, there's a bit of change, there's, things are changing, things are shifting. We're kind of trying to find our footing, we're trying to make sense of things. And it really just is sort of a transition period, and it's not going to last forever. And ultimately, you always are moving forward. You always are kind of moving onward, even if sometimes it feels like you're treading water a little bit. And again, I can't emphasize enough this idea of being helped and being guided on your journey. And that's something to remind yourself of when if you're struggling, or if you're just getting really frustrated at how confusing and cloudy headed you feel, or how like murky things are, really wanting things to be clear and clear cut, and they're not. And just knowing that you are being helped on kind of a spiritual level, you are being guided, and not even being helped on a spiritual level. I mean, the guy in this card is being helped by a person. So it's like in the physical realm, people are there to help as well. Okay. Okay, I'm just going to look at all these cards together now. I'm going to kind of zoom out and see the big picture. I'm noticing the moon has appeared in two cards. So we have it in the first card, the moon, with the High Priestess. Both of these cards figure the moon prominently. And that kind of goes with this idea that like the moon can stir up a lot of stuff. It can stir up a lot of unconscious or subconscious stuff. And then I also said at some point in the reading that working with the cycles of the moon might be important. I think I said it when I was talking about the moon. I should have also touched on that with the High Priestess as well. So working with cycles, lunar cycles, might be helpful for you this year. So going back to what I said about the Hierophant, so going back to what I said earlier about the Hierophant kind of being about having some sort of like structure or plan to follow, working with the lunar cycles could be that for you. Like just paying attention to what phase the moon is in and planning your activities accordingly, or doing some kind of moon ritual or something like that might be really helpful for you. Okay. I'm noticing that the Hierophant and the High Priestess look very similar. So they both have, and actually I'm going to put the images of these two side by side up on my screen. What's interesting here is that the two pillars that they're between are exactly the same in the Hierophant and the High Priestess. So we've got the black pillar and the white pillar, and they're exactly the same. So there is this interesting kind of connection between these two cards. What does it mean? Well, I can't help but want to kind of compare and contrast these two cards a little bit. So whereas the Hierophant, I really emphasized kind of rules and a structure that is outside of you that will help you feel kind of organized and contained and give you that kind of sense of, I don't think I said it would give you a sense of grounding, but it will energize you. But that's about like structures and rules outside of you. Whereas the High Priestess, it's all about the inner planes and the various structures and rules that exist when we're doing that inner work. It's kind of, yeah, you kind of have to balance those two things out, like those outer things with the inner things, having like an outer, again, like a set of, not necessarily rules, I don't want to use that word, but like structures, having some sort of a system, having some kind of ritual or something outside of you to kind of anchor to. But then the High Priestess is about going inward and doing some of that inner work. But it's just interesting, they look so similar. And then I'm also noticing that in 3 of the cards, we have women sitting on thrones. So the Hierophant, Queen of Wands reversed, she's sitting on a throne, High Priestess. And they all kind of look similar. If you look at them, they're all just kind of sitting on a throne. I don't know what that means. Yeah, I'm not sure what that means, but I do feel like the High Priestess, the Hierophant, Queen of Wands, these are all kind of cards of mastery and confidence. So I do think that there is a little bit of that woven into this year, even though I made it sound like this year is going to be this like total shit show of chaos and change and everything like that. Not necessarily change, but just kind of things being a little bit chaotic. I do feel like there's also opportunities to be like the High Priestess, or to be, you know, like the Queen of Wands. As for the suits that appeared in this reading, we have a little bit of everything. We've got cups, we've got wands, we've got a few swords cards. So we've got cups, wands, swords. Did we get pentacles? Yeah, we got pentacles as well. There's court cards here, major arcana cards. We have 3 major arcana cards. So we have the Moon, the Hierophant, and the High Priestess. And I would say the Moon and the High Priestess are very similar. The Hierophant, a little bit different in the energy. But those are kind of the 3 main major arcana cards that we got. Again, I want to emphasize that it does feel like this is a year of kind of embracing the mystery and working with the hidden aspects. So working with energy, working with the more mysterious, kind of hidden side of life. And I feel like whenever we're doing like manifestation work, we're kind of working with this side of life. Whenever we're doing meditation, any of that, we're sort of working with these hidden mysterious realms. And I do feel like this is a year to really do that. It does feel like spirituality will figure prominently this year. And I say that because of the Hierophant and the High Priestess together. And also the Moon, even though I don't normally associate the Moon with spirituality necessarily, it feels like any kind of spiritual practice you have this year will have to honor your wild kind of animal self, your wild instinctual side. I'm also noticing there's a lot of water, especially with the first card and the second card. So the Moon, we started with all this water in the Moon, and then we're ending with the 6 of Swords. Again, lots of water. I think that's interesting. And to me, especially with the Moon, it's telling me that there's this surface and then there's things under the surface. And that this year in 2025, certain things are going to be bubbling up from beneath the surface. We're going to be doing some diving deep into things and discovering some things, going kind of beneath the surface. I do think the High Priestess is also about going beneath the surface, kind of pulling back the curtain, looking and seeing what's behind the curtain. So even though with the Moon, I said that this is a year that will be quite mysterious and maybe a little bit confusing and murky, I also think that this is a year that we will be discovering things and pulling back the curtain, seeing things as they are, solving mysteries, uncovering things. I feel like that's also going to be a part of this year. Okay, I'm just going to take one last look and see if there's anything else I want to add here. And of course, feel free to chime in. So if you want to add your own 2 cents in the comments below, if you have your own thoughts on these cards, feel free to share. I'm always open to hearing different interpretations of the cards. Yeah, so overall, I feel like this is going to be just a very interesting year. Interesting times. It will be an interesting year, and I think that the more we can kind of embrace the mystery and let go of this idea that things have to make sense, things have to be clear, things have to be concise, we have to have a plan, we have to know what's next. The more we let go of that and stop trying to do that, the easier things will be. And I'm seeing now the water in these cards are kind of telling me to go with the flow. Once you learn how to go with the flow, things start to feel easier. And also remembering that you may need to take a very different approach to things this year. You may need to take a more unconventional approach to like whatever it is that you're trying to do this year, whatever you're trying to create, whatever goals you set, wherever it is you want to go, doing things in a conventional manner. If that's worked for you in the past, it may not work for you this year. You may need to really flip things on their head and do things very, very differently. Again, like the things that have worked for you in the past, when it comes to grounding yourself, clearing your mind, creating stability, calming yourself down, those things may not work as well this year, and you might need to explore new methods and new things, new ways of creating inner peace. Yeah, so definitely an interesting year. So I'm just going to conclude the reading by saying thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this reading, please don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. It really helps me out. Leave me a comment. And of course, check out my website, dailytarotgirl.com. I'm going to put the link to my site below. There's tons of fun tarot learning resources for you to check out. So be sure you do that. And have a fabulous year. Oh, and if you want to grab some planning sheets, I've made you some weekly and daily planning sheets that you can use with your tarot cards. I'm going to put the link to that below this video as well. So if you want to start your 2025 off on the right foot and grab your planning sheets, I'll put a link just below this video. So thank you so much for watching and Happy New Year.